I'm Kezia. Welcome to my kitchen. It is chilly in here, so I am bundled up, but we're going to talk meal planning and using a meal plan, the practice of meal planning to stay on budget and maximize the amount of money that we have to spend.
I'm Kezia, wife, mum, blogger, author, 5 a.m. coffee drinker. Like every mom, I wear a lot of hats. And in every one of those roles and in this space on the internet, my goal is to make living a lower footprint life feel just a little less complicated and be a bit more budget friendly.
I love the practice of meal planning. A, because I used to feel shame every single week about how much I spent on food. And B, because I think in the practice of staying on budget and planning how we eat, it's probably the most powerful single task that we can do to grow and learn and stay either on track or maximize what we have to spend. Meal planning really is the center of my food budgeting, not looking at my receipts and adding numbers up, but the practice of meal planning. Then there are so many things that you can pull into that, and I'll talk about a lot of the things that I do, but you can really just start very simply, and simply putting your meals on paper for most people will really help get a grip on your grocery spending and understanding where your money is going and how you can change that as you build on it week on week and learn from what you are doing. Also, aside from money, it brings me a ton of peace, and that's a huge factor. The peace of a meal plan and having the meals spelled out ahead of time, I find a mega win. And there are so many wins from meal planning, and they all kind of tie together, and it doesn't matter what you're focused on, but waste saving is a huge part of meal planning, which is important for the environment. It's important for our budget. That one piece alone will change our budget. It also can help fill your plates with more nutrient-dense food. That planning ahead can help us put more nutrient-dense food on the plate, and I will explain how. It also means we're buying everything with a plan for where it is going, which is a massive factor in saving. It helps also with balancing hosting and having other people, and when there are changes in what's going on, the meal planning practice can help accommodate those things and figure out how we can balance, or a month where there's less money or a month where there's more money. Bringing it all back to meal planning, harnessing what we learn as we go, is really powerful for so many things. Okay, but I'm going to talk about the practice of how we do it week by week. I'm going to use this meal planning template. Now, honestly, you could equally just use a piece of paper. I will often just scratch these lines onto a piece of paper and start making my meal plan for the week, but this is a template that I'm going to use. Also, at the same time, whenever I'm doing our meal plan for the week, as well as this template, I also just have a blank piece of paper, which is usually the meal plan from the week before. And that's going to be kind of scratch paper for writing down things that we have that we need to use up, and then I'm going to use it to write my shopping list from my meal plan. So I always have two pieces of paper when I'm grocery planning. And then there is one other thing that I pull into that I would really encourage you to make, and that is a master meals list. I will note our master meals list below, but what this is I find when I sit down, I grab my pad of paper, my meal planning template, I sit down and suddenly I can't think of what meals we even eat. And so I keep a master meals list of all the different things that we kind of are currently in rotation for our family, meals we love. And what you can then do is add notes onto this list. So is this a high budget meal, a low budget meal? How do you stretch it? How do you increase it for a crowd? Kind of as you go, you can increase your bank of knowledge about the food that you eat in your house. So I keep that master meals list, A, because it helps me just think about, okay, I have this ingredient, where could it go? My veg box had lots of cauliflower in it. How could I use that? It helps me do that. But it also helps to give me information that I can harness to stay on budget as I plan. So I have that online. I will put it in the comment, in the caption section below, but I would encourage you to keep one. I would advise starting off planning all the meals that you eat at home or that you take to go. And that leaves you with 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. You might also want a column for snacks if that's something you do, but that personally is something we eliminate for budgeting. We try and stick to meals and not snacks in between. It is really helpful. So when I sit down with my empty meal plan template, there are a couple of questions I'm then asking. So if you want to do this with me, grab your meal plan template and we can do it together. So the first thing I do when I grab my meal plan template, if it's a pre-done template, is draw a line for where we are in the week. That way I know where I'm starting, where the week starts and ends. So I'm planning from Wednesday on through to Tuesday. Then I'm going to look at what meals I even need to make. So that's where do we have extra people, and I will write a +3, or how many extra mouths we're feeding at that meal, or where are we out, or if there are any other factors in the meal, like that one we're going to eat in the car on the way home from practice. I'll just make a note so I know what grid am I trying to put my meals on, so I'm making appropriate things. So you can see here that I've begun to note these things on. I've got an on-the-go lunch, so I know I need to have it packed and ready to go. I've got a couple of car dinners where we've got late practices. Then I've got the grid that I'm trying to put our meals onto. I'm going to use my scrap piece of paper first to just jot down the things that I know that we have to eat. And I'm just making a list so that I can then take that, look at my meal plan and work out how I can get those things added into my meal plan first. And we begin to fill in the meals. Anytime I can cook once and eat twice, that is something I do. So as I'm doing the meal plan, I'm looking at, is that a meal that I can make double of? Where can I put the second portion of that meal? I've also got 2 chicken carcasses that I'm going to boil up and make a soup from. So I don't need to eat that right away, but I'm going to cook it. So I'm going to look at, okay, where can I put that in? So with something like this, I would never be able to cook chicken carcasses, use the broth, save the money, and get that nutrient density if I wasn't meal planning. So that's both a budget win and a nutrient density win. I'm going to have a homemade broth, which is great nutrient dense food, but also really budget friendly because I've been able to shop very cheap chicken carcasses. They're organic, actually. I've got them sitting right here on the windowsill. They're organic, very cheap. But because I'm looking ahead, I can turn that into a meal that I wouldn't be able to if I was thinking on the fly. That's kind of a 2-day meal. So planning ahead is how I get that nutrient density, but also budget win. So once I've added in and I've used up the things from my list, so I know that those foods that I have to use are being used up, I have some meals that we do every week. Now, you can do this every night of the week. Pick meals that can be adjusted seasonally. So maybe pizza, you can put different things on top. Tacos, you can put different things on top. There are lots of meals where you can have a standard plan, but then adjust it with what you have in the house and what you have seasonally. I don't do it for every night, but we will do pizza once a week. We will do some kind of pasta bake once a week. We will always do waffles at the weekend, and in the winter we will always do some kind of soup. And at this point, I have filled in half of my meal plan with just going through what we have that needed to be used, and then some of our standard meals. And I know that those standard meals are ones that fit the meal plan. We can do them every week. So then what I'm going to do is look and go, okay, with what I've put in there, how are we sitting on budget? How are we sitting on nutrition? Now, this is something you're going to get more of an idea of, the budget piece, as you go. Which meals sit where? You can note that on your master meal plan. Which meals are more expensive? Which meals are less expensive? It may not be something that you can just gauge by eye to start with. So I would recommend keep your meal plans. Write down how much you spent. Write down how it went. And I also have another tool for working out how much you should be spending per meal, which I will put in the caption below, that I find really helpful as I'm cooking, for figuring out where a meal sits on the low to high price scale. So you can click that below and put in your own numbers in the tool. And once I have an idea of where I think I'm sitting budget-wise and nutrition-wise, I'm going to start filling in the other meals from my master meal list. At this time, sometimes I will ask the rest of the family, sometimes, is there anything you want this week, either for inspiration or just to keep them involved in the mix? As I'm putting meals in, I'm also adjusting, scratching things out, moving things around to get a really efficient meal plan for our life. I also always want to make sure I'm noting in enough leftovers meals to make sure that we use every single thing that we have. Otherwise, if we're making a plan for every meal and we have bits that get left over, they sometimes don't get eaten. So we save every single bite of food that gets left over. Today, part of lunch was leftover granola from breakfast. Yes, it had sat since breakfast. Yes, we ate it again for lunch. We save every single piece of food, and sometimes everyone's eating a different thing at that meal, and it's just, here's all the bits, here's what we're eating, or sometimes I'll pull it together into a meal that makes sense with the different bits that we have. Sometimes it just is eat up the leftovers, but I always make sure that we have those meals in the mix. And then when I'm done, I'm gonna look over it. How does it look for me budget-wise? How does it look for me nutrition-wise? Are we eating the way we want to eat? Are we balanced? It's good, everyone eats differently, but I'm just glancing my eye over it. Especially if we're hosting, I'm then gonna make sure, okay, is the rest of the week a bit more frugal? If we've fed a lot of extra people on one day, have we adjusted the week to make sense for that? So I'm kind of looking over. Then I'm gonna look at, are there ingredients that I'm gonna buy specifically for things that are then not gonna get used? Is there a jar of salsa that's used in one meal, but I'm gonna have leftovers and it's not being used? And in that case, I will go back, scratch it out, adjust the meal plan so that any ingredient that I'm buying is going to make sense. Then I'm looking at my calendar, so my personal calendar, what we're actually doing, and just double checking, does this meal plan make sense for the things that are on the calendar? Do I have the appropriate card and packed dinners and on-the-go meals? How does this look? Is it working? Again, adjust if it's not working. And then I'm gonna take that and write my shopping list from it. Looking at, okay, what do we have already in the cupboards? What do we need? And I will write my shopping list. Then at the shops, I'm gonna take both my meal plan and my shopping list. They both come with me to the shops. And the reason is I then finish my meal plan as I'm shopping. If I see something that's a really good deal, I will look, does it make sense in my meal plan to sub out a meal for a different meal based on what I'm seeing at a low price? So if I just have my grocery list, sometimes I don't know why something's on there and it's harder to adjust in the moment. So instead I'm taking my meal plan with me so that even as I shop, I'm going, oh wait, that went up in price. Okay, we should change that. Or that's low, and I'm finishing up adjusting my meal plan as I shop. And then the last thing that I'm doing through the week is also revisiting the meal plan in light of how we are actually eating and what's in the fridge. Plans change, appetites change. And so every couple of days, I'm just looking at what we have in the fridge, the food we have left, and looking and going, is this still working? Are we on track? Is something going bad that I'm not going to get to on the meal plan before it goes bad? What do I need to adjust? And I'm just checking in on the meal plan through the week. And also, I'm a mom at home, and so while life is busy, there are sometimes pockets of time when I can do a task. And so this means that in those moments, I can go to my meal plan and go, all right, my kids are drawing in the kitchen. Is there a task that I can accomplish from here while they are doing that? So maybe that's, oh, I can get bread dough started, or, oh, I can soak beans because in a couple of days, we're having a meal that uses beans. I've actually got time to soak them and sprout them, and then again, increase that nutrient density because I'm looking ahead. But if I plan that meal with beans the day of the meal, I've only really got time to use them from a can, which is a higher budget cost and maybe a little bit less digestible and nutrient dense if I have the alternative of sprouting them. So there are a ton of things I use a meal plan for now, and I hope that that helps you do the same. It's taken weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks of grocery budgeting, keeping the plans, looking at how much I'm spending, grabbing my receipt, looking at it, okay, that's not a meal I want to be making all the time, noting that on the master meal list. As there's a lot of ways you can pull in more and more and more information week by week, but even just starting by making the meal plan, following it, seeing how it goes, and then taking just what's in your head that you learned one week and applying it to the next week can be an incredible tool for maximizing our grocery budgets, for staying on track with spending, nutrient density, and all the things. So I hope that helps. And below is our master meal plan list that we use. Build your own one. It is so helpful to gather that information to stay on track with your budget.